And the thought is that competition is a faith killer because it creates false faith. So what I'm learning in this process of launching the Atlanta campus in Atlanta, I've started to look at other ministries, and like I was looking at Andy Stanley's ministry, look at how many churches he has and how much money his ministry has. I was looking at Mike Todd's ministry, seeing how big his ministry was. And when you start comparing yourself to other people, what I notice happens inside of me is that the competitive spirit rises up. I want to be as big as this. I want to do as much as this person. And what happens is, what I'm noticing is that what happens is you start to create things to do to try to get where you think you're supposed to be. And we learn on Sunday what that does is that creates false faith. So I start creating goals to try to compete against something that God never told me to compete against. And so when you start creating goals that God never told you to create, it drowns out the things that God actually wants you to do. And then what happens is it kills the real faith that you have for what God said. I'm going to put you on mute, man. Go ahead. And so when you're in this competitive spirit, you trying to compete against people, and I'm talking to myself, it literally creates false goals, which creates false faith, which kills the vision that God has given you. It's like we almost got to be, we have to, no, not almost, we have to be okay with seeing somebody else being 3 times as successful as we are and being content knowing that God has us where we are supposed to be. If you think about the story of the 5 talents, you know, God gave one person 5 talents, one person 3, and one person 1, I believe, 5, 3, and 1, either 5, 2, and 1. And if the person with the 2 was upset with the person with the 5, then the person with 2 couldn't have doubled what he was called to do. So you almost got to say, okay, God has gifted me with this particular race to run. Let me run this race and not let me jump tracks because I want to be on a different track than what God's called me to be on. It's almost like God has graced all of us with certain things to accomplish. And if we accomplish those things, we get the same well done, good and faithful servant as the person who started with 5 talents, as the person who started with 2 talents. It's really more about if you don't do anything at all with it. That's really the point. And so, but when you get competitive, the competitive spirit calls you to jump tracks, and now you can totally off the mark. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking about now as I'm personally processing these things and realize I still have a ways to go with this competitive thing. It's like, I really get really competitive and I want to be here. I want to be there. I saw this person did this, so I got to stretch my faith. And so when you start to quote unquote stretch your faith, where God told you never to stretch your faith to, you start making mistakes. And so that's kind of what's on my heart to share with kind of what I'm processing, thinking about today.